Salutations, this is Arc Messenger. As far as things go, like, it's been a while since I made some videos. I think mostly today, I just kind of made a decision where, like, I wanted to pretty much create videos if there's a topic worth talking about. And I don't want to just keep jumping on the bandwagon. But there might be a few I'll try to do, but as a backup, like, I'll try to create ones that have been out for a while or for many years ago. But, like, it's this whole thing where it's like, might as well just kind of bring it up to the surface of what my initial thoughts are. Now, I know what you're thinking, everybody. Someone like me that just mainly wants to kind of talk about, you know, any general content, or even if it's just something like anything that I'd like to discuss. But I'm sure that people would have several questions, like, should I make reviews? Should I create type of content that, you know, that you have seen previously, like do a let's play or make animated shorts, or particular content that lives rent-free in my head that won't let me sleep unless if it gives me sweet bliss of mercy that remains of slumber, maybe? That's not what we're going to be talking about, what we just seen. What we're going to mainly talk about is probably just my initial thoughts. You could say my overall sort of take of what I'm gonna hope to anticipate when watching the Super Mario Brothers movie. Now, let's just go for the general senses. Two Italian brothers pursuing for a calling, for something bigger than just placing jobs, you know, from their previous boss. As they build upon a business on their own, they come across a rift between worlds like no other. Similar to Fish Out of Water, Mario would encounter unique characters, strange environments, and loads of Easter eggs along the way. When the time comes to face danger, will Mario be able to find and save Luigi from the monstrous presence of Bowser, King of the Koopas? I mean, it's not as complicated as to earn the conclusion from a video game. Now, before I go kind of address further of the main questions, or probably questions I might have to answer after, I'm not sure if it's going to be on a video or not, but here's what sort of my questions would be I would ask myself. But before I answer those, might as well go upon the channel, find the subscribe button, and smash it. Like as you were playing Smash Bros. Go for your mains when pressing the buttons. Go to assign your profile. Go for your Mii fighter. One of my impressions. So, I enjoyed them overall. And actually, I'm curious of how they're all going to go and play, especially for the certain characters that are major roles, it seems, because they go from this end of this this one line of a character, and then there's this character that pretty much has only a few sort of zingers. And then there's one other character that we haven't even seen in the trailers, but I'm sure they're going to play a crucial part in that major motivation for the brothers to probably go elsewhere for their careers. But that's just kind of speculating. But I'm not sure if it's a spoiler thing, just in case spoilers. But it's just more of, or possible spoilers, I should say. For the Super Mario Brothers movie in this case, it looks like they're going mostly all in. They wanted to make sure they're not just faithful to the source material, but it seems it's a passion project when you look at it. Especially with the Watchful Eye with Nintendo, an official collab with Illumination, which Illumination does have the best track record when it comes to, let's say, faithful adaptations. But crafted with the right people, with the right eyes, and that they're able to care enough to be able to present it for an audience that is just as impressionable as the new generation would like to see. Yeah, I don't want to be the bearer of news here, but Rotten Tomatoes, they reviewed this movie yesterday, and they were kind of review bombing it, whether if it's passé or mediocre, and probably things that already happened before, lack thereof, with less substance. So I'm just gonna leave you there, and hopefully you don't overreact. All right? What? You can't be serious. You're really gonna go upon this angle of trying to have this sort of pander to your audience, like literally fishing it out, to think that's something people would have the distinction that it's going to reach out to people like that. Like, I prefer that it just aims that sort of promotion or some sort of advertising friendly that doesn't really have that. It's not needed for that. It's not needed here. It's already good enough as it is. Like, the absurdity of the casting, the absurdity of the overall, like, oh, the trailer, like, it has this sort of beautiful visuals, and it has okay humor, but the performances are really well done, even though I barely hear it from other people. But, like, the rest is just like, oh, this is something that I would like to see I'm actually intrigued to see what's gonna go for. And then you give us this, where, like, oh, this is sort of what Hollywood wants you to do, instead of maybe just curiosity of what people would like to see what Illumination made for, anybody that might be interested. Just of itself. Doesn't really need all that type of advertising. I mean, if you want to go back to more of the Hollywood direction with Super Mario Brothers movie, they did before, and that didn't receive very well, did it? Just leave that out of it. Just have people enjoy it as it is. Why that you have to go through that low common denominator of pandering? You wanted to have something that has that sort of appeal for any of us that recognizes an existing IP, but at the same time, I can understand that people wanted something different or something that people can relate to. But this is Super Mario Brothers. How would I approach myself when watching the film? Well, from this point, I just wanted to make sure that I enjoy it as it is. Like, as a film. And if anyone's gonna expect any form of criticism as a thing, as far as I know, the only thing I've heard that was funny was, like, it's over animated. To be honest, like, the frames are pretty much interesting for Illumination Project. But I'm guessing, like, when you watch other films now, like, they do have more subtle animation, like, if it's necessary. But since it's more cartoony and not really, like, something that's gonna be taken as a Pixar film, at least in the general aspects of what you expect from an animated film that has more story-motivated narratives, this part of this overall movie is pretty much just to be enjoyed as for entertainment purposes. I don't expect it to be like a huge story. I don't expect it to be... It's going to be a huge movie for people to watch. Don't get me wrong. But it's something that, like, when you think of the general audience, like, it's not all people are going to be watching a movie that's strictly for story narrative. It's appeasing. Like, I really enjoy good stories too. But there are sometimes, like, there are movies that I enjoy that I like to turn my brain off at times. I think people could say the same if you were a normie like me. Now I know what you're gonna be saying. Arc Messenger, you're not a normie. Well, if I were a normie, a cartoon glitch ghost that's a VTuber, you know, might as well go fourth wall breaking here. If I were somebody that's like, oh, he's not a normie. Well, can a normie do this equivalently when holding a head like this and then twist my neck like it were nothing? I don't think so. I don't think you should have a saying if somebody has that amount of time in their hands to animate such things. Alright, next one. Is there one nitpick I have throughout the hype? Like, what are the things I've seen in the trailers, what people have initial reactions from it, or just what generally the internet would say, which of course the internet always has something to say. Like, I'm not gonna say whether it's good or bad, but there's always gonna be something that people are gonna say about something. So the one nitpick that I do have is something that I wish they'd done this earlier. Not Nintendo, but like Illumination. Like, if they had this sort of thing where it's like, this is their plan from the beginning, I'm sure they pretty much just have this sort of plan years earlier, but they have to kind of appeal to what they could with the ideas that they can come up originally before making a huge jump. And I think that's my only nitpick that I have from it. Like, is I wish they kind of done certain projects that kind of warm us up a little bit. But I'm guessing, like, it's also a good thing too, where maybe that's a good thing that they're able to introduce us this huge thing as their first project rather than other projects that they would come up with, because it definitely gives us a surprise, and it's something that at least gives us the hype for it to hopefully it would succeed. Okay, so now the nitpick that somebody, or generally everyone has, is the few characters that, whether if there's their voice performance or the way that Hollywood seems to frame it as such, of the character Mario that has this sort of not even doing a Mario voice, or Princess Peach is becoming a girl boss type of aspect. Oh, why is Luigi a damsel in distress in this? Why are these certain, actors that are A-listers, playing these roles? Even though that's not the first initial reaction, but later on there's other people that do have criticism about, like, what happened to just having professional voice actors. We're gonna cut that out because we're just mostly focusing on the nitpicks. There's a whole can of worms for that sort of topic. So, I'm sure there's gonna be people that made video essays about it or articles. You could read or watch those. As long as it's a type of thing that has a discussion that's more leveled rather than just one-sided. Just do the best you can to filter out which ones that actually do take both sides of the benefits and like the pros and cons of that sort of decision making for casting of roles. But the main things I wanted to discuss is basically Chris Pratt's voice performance and the sort of agenda that they're trying to push for Princess Peach in terms of girl boss / signaling to pander others. Now, the first off thing, I don't mind about the Chris Pratt voice acting. In this case, for Mario. For Garfield, it's a different topic. Because Garfield is more distinct. You can't really do that with Garfield if it already has existing voice work. But you're saying to Mario's case, like, before you say hypocritical in the comments, one case is that it's a different medium. When you're thinking about a video game, and then when you're thinking about a movie adaptation. A video game that has voice work, but it's not really... You only have maybe few lines to say, and then mostly sound effects. Which is still just as important for voice acting. But when it comes to filling out a whole movie, like maybe a 2-hour movie, or like an 1.5-hour movie, depends on what the time frame is. Like let me see if I can look at the exact hour that says how long. Because it says it on what I checked right now. Okay, so it says 1 hour and 32 minutes. Which, let's say minus 15 minutes or 10 minutes. That's about 1 hour and 15 minutes or hour and 20 minutes. At best, right? And you have to have somebody that's going to carry throughout the lines for the voice acting. If he was hypothetically doing just his voice with Garfield, everyone's going to have a problem. But when it comes to Mario, he doesn't really have that much of a voice because he had little personality to begin with. He's more of a protagonist that's like, oh, I'm just a character that you're playing. Because you're basically an avatar that you're playing as. You're not really like have a personality that's outside of it unless if a story narrates it. And I know notoriously, based on what I heard from other people, right? Or other people that made video essays, that Miyamoto hates stories. For the canon Mario, you know, I would say that's more of Miyamoto rules. Like, I can understand that. But, yeah, when it comes to this case of notorious for that case, but it's more specifically for Miyamoto and not Nintendo itself. So, depends on certain stories that Miyamoto target towards, like, oh, here's one for Zelda, oh, here's one for Earthbound, here's one for Yoshi or Kirby, and they would tell you, like, okay, as long as it's not, like, story, heavy, you can do whatever. Because it's more gameplay first and this sort of thing. That's sort of, like, what their main drive for video game medium, right? Well, for a movie, it's completely different. So, like, if you're gonna be thinking, no, you really need a beginning, middle, and end. You need to have some sort of thing that has that sort of structure. So that's why, like, you have writers, and you have people that animate the whole scenes, and a director that improvise everything to make sure everyone's going to the right direction. And you would think, well, what if Miyamoto says these sort of criticisms in his film? It's not his film entirely. It's, like I said, it's an official collab between the director and with the watchful eye of a creative consultant of Nintendo. They want their IP to be taken seriously. When you see the previous film that they just let loose, you can see why that they have a watchful eye in this current project and not just let it just be done by anybody. So that's sort of what I would kind of go for the role for the Chris Pratt voicing. Mario seems more tame rather than just be like this sort of direction where it's like, do you really want it to be something that is beyond iffy, that might be considered like people would have a problem with other roles? And then when it comes to, speaking of another role for Princess Peach, it's not really something to do with the voice actress, it's more of the character Princess Peach. Now, for this case, the voice actress, I don't know like if she's promoted in a certain way, or I'm not sure if it's the media that wants to frame Princess Peach as this sort of, you know, this boss girl attitude sort of thing. But stop. Hold it. Hold the phone. As far as I can tell you with, you know, with that particular topic, I really don't want Nintendo to get fazed by this. I want Nintendo, in a sense, as far as I know, they did put their foot down. They have said this Peach is going to remain as it is. We're going to present it as we envision it. We don't need this sort of advertising. We have what we needed. We're going to present it, and people are going to enjoy Peach as she will be presented. Thank you. Like, I really want to say this. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you. Thank you. I want to enjoy Peach. I want to enjoy this character. Like, not because, like, oh, like, she's gonna be a nothing character, or she's gonna be eye candy, or all this stuff. There are weirdos out there, but I'm just gonna say this. I want Peach to be enjoyed as a character. I want to look up to her in a sense of what other people in New Generation should look up to her as a character, not because she has this distinct relatability factors, but just generally as a whole. If people only like distinctiveness because, like, oh, they just wanted to write her as a, you know, like, I know a lot of people would talk about the Mary Sue sort of argument, which, yeah, it does get annoying if you see writers or people that want self-insert characters that are more like avatars and not actual characters. They're not like human characters, they're not relatable characters, they're just paper cutout characters. There's something like you see on a poster and says you can do it, which I'm fine with those at that time. But now, like, if you want an actual character from, you know, a specific sort of characters that are identifiable, what do you think you want to see Peach as? At least it's structured that made sense with her character, because she's able to already know to do this stuff because she's literally been living there because she's a literal princess, royalty within a mushroom kingdom for probably mostly her life. And Mario is like literally a fish out of water. At least I could follow it better. I could follow that a whole lot better in that way. In the world building aspects, like, okay, Princess Peach, how did she become a princess in the Mushroom Kingdom? Hopefully they don't have to go in full detail. We just know that she probably has been a denizen within that realm for so long. Not sure if she inherited from her father, who knows. Or somebody of her relatives, I don't know. Like, it could be like the Princess Bubblegum situation where, like, she pretty much structured everything, and the relatives kind of went rogue in a sense, like, or kind of detached from each other, and they decided to have their own selfish reasons for it. But when it comes to Princess Peach, we don't know what her lore is. We don't really need to in the first movie. They could dive into it later on when branching out, you know, like their cinematic universe. But in this case, of where I'm gonna go for is that what are the cases for Princess Peach for this sort of nitpick? You don't really need some form of agenda. You don't need some form of pandering for your promotion. I want to relate to Peach, even if it were that sort of certain direction, if they decide to. If not, okay, just make it relatable. That's all we ask. Make it something where it's like, well, what can generally anybody can relate to? Have that sort of as your main guideline of the few questions. One of them is, you can't just appeal to certain people. What can generally people can relate to in a positive light? That's it. So far. There could probably be others as we add more, but that one's the essential that can appeal to people that, you know, that they'll be able to go through watching the movies. As long as I'll be able to know, like, okay, they're trying their best, especially hearing from interviews, you know, as you'll be able to see in certain interviews, such different ones here to there, about, besides their first impressions, like Nintendo Direct, I think their other interviews are probably a whole lot better, because they probably have much better PR than they do with just kind of let them go out astray from their overall sense of direction that they're supposed to say, or maybe at least maybe what they could have said when being interviewed. But other than that, like, that's pretty much it of the nitpicks generally people would have. Oh yeah, the downs and distress from Luigi. To be honest, like, if they're gonna go through a different direction, I don't mind. Because, like, if I keep seeing Princess Peach have been saved, it would have been, like, literally recycled ideas. And not just because it's a kind of, how do you say, makes it more of a stereotype of that sort of trope. I'm just saying, you know, it's something that, like I said, as long as it makes sense to the story structure, hopefully I could see Luigi doing his own performance, working off with Bowser, and then Mario working off with Peach, and Donkey Kong, and several other characters. But other than that, that's sort of where I'm gonna go for in this case. Rhetorically, when does this take place in the lore? I'd rather just have this be a mix of existing things, which it's already been doing. And when you're looking at certain ideas like this, it's actually best that it actually does its own thing rather than retelling the story that has been said from other video games or from other films. They could probably do insert referential jokes or any sort of thing that they like, but I'd rather just have it do its own thing and how they're going to use their own thing based on what were presented. Well, that's everything that I have planned out, but oh. Pardon me. I forgot about this. So I wanted to do like a proper formal departure for this little special occasion. This little kettle here. Similar to the analogy of the movie, everyone should be able to enjoy it while it lasts. And I know it's not as much, probably for the majority of you, but for others, it's something a little special for everyone. Our little kettle. You were quite a sight. How we loved the way you laughed. Invaded our minds day and through night. Always dreamed about the warm little raft. Let us compare you to a witty ark, shall we? Sorry. Well, now let's compare you to a witty ark, shall we? You are special, delightful, and small. All clouds dole the unique flowers of March, and the springtime has the soothing pitfall. How do we all adore you? Let us count the ways. We love your adorable noises, smile, and design. Watching your broadcasts fill our days. Our devotion for you is a bright skyline. Now we must be away with a bleak heart. Remember all our words, whilst we're apart.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you later, everyone. Bye. See ya.